In this video, I'm going to share with you something that doesn't seem to be out there in the sports card world, but is actually really big news in some sports card circles, and that is the largest sports card company in all of mainland China, a company called FansMall, has recently been shut down by the Chinese government. In this video, I'm going to share with you the whole story and reflect on what this kind of means in a general sense within the hobby. Let's check this out. Now, before I get into this, I should mention I'm not an investigative reporter, and as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a whole lot of news about this. So a lot of the stuff that I'm learning about from this are from individual people that I've communicated with. People, I have a lot of friends in China and lived there for a long time, and a lot of, through this YouTube channel, I've made connections with quite a few people who are connected to China in some way. Either they're collectors there, or they're in the US, but maybe they are from China, or maybe they lived there, or are some way or another connected. So, I've kind of been trying to piece together elements of the story from just what I hear from what people are saying. But again, I don't know the 100% accuracy of all of these things, but I'm going to share with you what I do know and that what the rumors are out there about this. Okay, so first let's identify this company. This company is called FansMall. If you look them up online, you can find a lot of information about them. They are in many ways the largest company in the sports card realm in all of China. In fact, I've made several videos about them because they're kind of like, that's the place where Panini, will collaborate with them for distribution in China, in mainland China. It's they've been the partner with CSG for grading, for bulk grading submissions. I've made videos about CSG's partnership with them. They've kind of been at the crux of everything. They've been the main, maybe the only breaking platform in all of China. That's where people will buy their products. That's where people will do their breaking. They've kind of been the one who has organized anything in the past when there's been things that have been more kind of like card shows, like large scale card shows. They've been the one, at the center of a lot of that. They're at the center of a lot of things in the business world of sports cards in China is FansMall. Essentially, what it seems like happened is on some day, about a month ago, mid-April, there was this one day where suddenly the FansMall website was just not there and the app was not working. And there was a letter on there that said something it was in Chinese, and it basically, I can't remember the details of it. I had somebody translate it for me because my Chinese isn't good enough to read the whole letter like that. But it basically was, we're shutting down for now while we deal with some legal things. That was about it. There was a little more explanation to that. But it didn't seem like, okay, they're just dealing with something. Let's see what this is. Now, I've since come to find out that there's a good chance, and what people are saying is that this company is shut down permanently. And the reasons I've heard are 2 or 3 different things, and I suspect it's a combination of these things. So essentially, one of the big ones, of course, in China, gambling is illegal. It's one of the reasons Macau makes so much money, because Macau is not officially part of the Chinese system, so they have gambling there. So all of the people from mainland China go to Macau, and it's one of the reasons why Macau makes more money from gambling than Las Vegas does or than anywhere else in the world, because, I think in the Chinese culture, sometimes gambling is actually really a big thing, even just playing mahjong with friends and stuff like this with some gambling involved. It's just a big thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why Macau does so much gambling. But gambling is illegal in mainland China, and there's a lot of effort by the government, especially in the last couple of years, to kind of rein in things that are like outside of the sphere of legality. So so with the way that FansMall was structuring some of their breaks, it was beginning to look to the government officials like it was actually gambling. And I could see how that could be seen that way, because really it depends on how a break is organized. It was getting to the point where it was looking more and more like gambling. So that's one thing I heard. Another thing I heard is that FansMall was caught cheating a number of its customers. People were winning cards in breaks, and then they weren't receiving their cards, and this was happening consistently, and there was some legal things related to that, and it caused the government to look closer at what they were doing and realize some bad business practices and close them down. So I don't know if it's number one or if it's number two, if it's some combination of those two things. The rumor out there is that these are the two things. This is what I've heard several people say. So that's where we stand. But what I think is really interesting is to reflect on what this might mean for the future of both the hobby in China and how this affects things beyond the Chinese border, because it absolutely does. outside of the Chinese border, I think it's really fascinating the timing of this, because right now I know that there's been some efforts recently. Like, for example, I have heard through the grapevine that PWCC, they were trying to, kind of take an inroads into the Chinese market. I know that Golden has been trying, different ways to kind of make inroads into the Chinese market. I know PSA has been working on some partnerships to strengthen their kind of stronghold in the Chinese market. I know there's a lot of US-based companies that have been trying to kind of pierce the veil and approach, being more involved in the sports card world within China in general, because it's a huge market for anything. I mean, it's 1/5 of the world's population, and sports cards are a massive thing. So of course, the sports card people are trying to make their way in there. But it's challenging. I think any company who's ever, any foreign company who's ever tried to step into China has seen how challenging it is for a foreign company to exist there. They're very careful about those kinds of practices. So a lot of companies have trouble existing in China without making local partnerships and kind of doing a collaboration rather than a business, which a lot of companies I think were doing in connection with FansMall. I know PSA was trying, CSG was trying, a number of people were trying, and Panini, Topps, they were all collaborating with FansMall, and now that collaboration is gone. So on the one hand, that could mean a lot of, there's room right now for some other Chinese company to emerge, though it's a weird time for somebody to try to start a big company like that at a time when FansMall is closed down. Maybe there's a way somebody could organize themselves and be more aligned to the law and to be more careful, but it's a difficult zone to be involved with right now. I think there's more eyeballs from the authorities on the sports card world in China than there has ever been. Even at border crossings, customs, and things like this, they're becoming more aware of the value of cards, looking more closely at them. It's a little bit harder for cards to get through without being, having higher customs fees than there was before. There's just more awareness of that this space is a very, high value space, and that it's something to really have a close eye on. It's a harder time right now to maybe start a business in China than it has been in the past, just because of the close government oversight that's never really been there. That's one thing that's going to be tough. Any of these companies, these big companies like PwC, Golden, whatever, if they're trying to make inroads into China, it's a tough time. There's nobody that you can really collaborate with. You can't really start up on your own. It's tough. So that's one thing that I think is a reality. Another thing is I think this could actually affect the value of certain kinds of cards, because for example, the Asia exclusive cards, the Tmall products and these sorts of things, FansMall has been their main distributor in mainland. And I think it's a little harder without FansMall for the cards to kind of get out and about. You can still, people will still buy cards from Panini directly or from the West and get it over to the East. There's still ways for the products to get out on the marketplace, but it's not going to be through breaks, at least the main breaking platform. Card Hobby, which I go on a lot, they have a breaking platform on there, but there hasn't been a break on there in like half a year, maybe like that. I've seen like 2 breaks per year and nothing maybe anymore with this FansMall stuff. There'll probably be no breaking on Card Hobby ever, I'm assuming. So they don't have that because it seems like breaking is the thing that's causing the problems. So there's really nowhere to break the product. So that probably means higher end product just won't find a venue in China, because who's going to spend so much money on a case of the high-end stuff unless you're breaking it and you're sharing that cost with a bunch of people. So if you can't really break easily, is the high-end stuff going to come into China? And then for the Asia exclusive stuff, you're going to have to be buying full products rather than buying into breaks, which I think could affect supply and demand within the Chinese market itself. And we know, because of the globe being connected, that supply and demand things that affect the Chinese domestic market is going to affect the eBay market, the global market as well. So I think that the nature of supply and demand, especially with Asia-related products and stuff that's really popular in Asia, like high-end National Treasures and Flawless, I actually think this could affect the supply and demand of those products, because there's a big chunk of the market where it's going to be less accessible than it has been, it seems to me. So I think that could actually have ripple effects. I also think there's another ripple with this that could affect, the access of Chinese sellers to consigners and things in the US. The reason I say that is because and I guess I should have mentioned this before, but another thing that I've heard in the rumor mill is that one of the parts of the legal battle is related to supposedly somebody that was US based that was I don't know, it was almost like tax fraud was happening. People were sending their cards from China to the US, and something about how the money was being returned. They were avoiding taxes, they were avoiding customs fees. I don't know the details, but it was something related to using US sellers, someone in particular, is the rumor, in order to avoid paying taxes or customs fees, that they were trying to get around a lot of those kinds of things. And so I actually think that it might become a little bit harder. There's always loopholes. There's always small scale stuff that nobody didn't pay much attention to. But I think there's going to be a little bit more eyeballs on where is the money actually going? What's the cash flow for people in China who are trying to sell stuff in the U.S.? What's happening to that? There might be more oversight. There might be more eyeballs on that. So I think there's going to be more carefulness, more fear on the Chinese side to be involved in the international market, even on places like eBay. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing less, stuff being sold from China. I could be wrong. It might be that's small scale stuff is not going to be affected too much, but it just seems like it's a potential ripple spot where there's going to be just more eyeballs, and so there's going to be maybe more fear for being involved in the international sports card world. I also think just in general, it's a space where, because of, this extra carefulness being looked at with cards coming in at the customs, with extra carefulness with, what's happening with FansMall, I think there's a number of people who have been involved with sports cards in China who are backing out. This is happening in the US as well, since the market's been going on. And that was happening in China too, just like in the US, as the market in general has been going down, people in China were kind of stepping back a little bit, at least some of the people who were getting involved in the last couple of years only. But now that this FansMall stuff is happening, I think there's just a general consensus among a larger group of people that it's not a good time to be involved in this space, especially if you're trying to make money in this space, that there's a lot of barriers that are getting in your way now. So I think it's causing more and more people in China to back out. So I have a feeling that will have an effect on the resale values in the Chinese market, which will have an effect on the resale values everywhere else. Because again, the globe is connected. It seems like that's a ripple effect that, maybe it's already happening, but I think that it could happen. So anyway, that's where I was going to leave it with this video. What do you think? Have you heard this story? Have you heard of FansMall? Did you know anything about this? If you know more, like I said, I'm not an investigative journalist. I've just known a little bit because of my connections with people in China. So if you know more about it, please do share in the comments below. If I learn more about this in the future, I'll continue to share about it as well. But for now, that's it for this video. Peace.